do you think you could do this job? There's sometimes I think, can I do this job? But I've been doing it, and I have somebody who does it also very well. And for the first time on Breaking Into, we're going to talk about hosting next.
You are tuned in to Black Hollywood Lives. Breaking Into.
I am ready for success. My song, I am success.
No way, this is great.
I'm now Mel.
I know.
Songs with inside voice. I am ready. I am ready for success. I wrote this. It's my theme song. Hi, you guys. Welcome to Breaking Into. I'm your host, Lott Jr. And you are hearing my song, I Am Ready, which came out last year. A year ago, last week it came out. It was my first song ever that I ever wrote, recorded, and did, and I'm so proud of it. And it's on my new album, Songs from My Inside Voice. You can get it anywhere where you can find albums. I mean, it's on everything. And it's a very motivational song because I am ready for success. And this lady has success also, and I met her about a year or so ago. And I fell in love with her. I was like instantly, we come from similar mindsets. And also, she started this thing called Host in LA. If some of you guys are hosts out there and on Facebook, there's a big group. It's a big group. And it's Host in LA. And if you've seen her now, some people were telling me, I've seen her name before. Well, this is the person I'm going to be talking to today. But she's also been an actress, I believe writer also, done some writing.
Not really too much, but just a little bit.
She has an
Mainly
IMDb
just on
page.
camera.
Yeah, we have an IMDb page. But she's done many things. We're going to actually talk about what she's done outside of hosting, within hosting. I just want to get started because I just love her so much, Shay Holland.
I'm so excited to be here, and I love that song.
Yes.
I am ready. I am ready.
Are you ready, girl?
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's funny. I'm very proud of shout out to my producer, Palms, who thought up the music. I did the lyrics, and it was like magic. And I thought, for anybody out there who wants motivation, that's the song you play for yourself.
Absolutely. And I love it. As I was listening to it, it made me think of all the things we tell ourselves to hold ourselves back. And this is like, no, forget it. We're just ready.
Yes, we are. Now, folks, you can find us on Facebook under Breaking Into. Go ahead and like that page. Also, her page is Host in LA. Go there, and if you're a host, go there. There's lots of great support and sometimes opportunities, but go there and I follow that. I'm on that page too. You can follow us there. We're on iTunes. We're on SoundCloud. We are on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere. Black Hollywood Live, Breaking Into. Follow wherever you find this podcast. Find it, comment, rate, subscribe. Tell me how much you like my hair. I don't know. Or her hair. I don't know, somebody like that. So we can do that. It's okay. So I got that out the way, of course. Now, I want to show a picture first, if I follow my show rundown, of us. This is when I first met her in person. You'll look over there and that thing there, and she's going to pull it up soon. Because we met about a year ago at Michael Ripp's house.
Yeah.
You were doing it. I was involved in another project called Host in LA, and that's when we first met. I was a producer on the show, and she was a guest.
I remember it
And you can actually go on YouTube. It's out there. Meet the host. It's out there. And we just had a great conversation, and I guess like she has something going on, that she is somebody.
Well, that's because I was probably asking all the questions, so I'm still not used to being the one on this side of the camera, and it always feels so awkward.
How do you feel right now?
I want to start asking questions.
You can ask me anything you want if you want to. I'm going to get, okay, folks, now you know I'm usually in charge of my show.
Right, exactly.
But I will give, because you are good, if you want to ask me any questions, you can.
Okay.
I don't grant that to any guest.
Can I start now?
Yeah, start now. Do it.
Because you did such an amazing job at the Daytime Emmys.
Oh, thank you.
And so what was that feeling like for you? Really your coming out moment in a way.
Yes, it was. I was at the Daytime Emmys this year, and I wore this purple suit, which you guys all saw, of course, online.
Right.
But being there, the Daytime Emmys are the highest honors for any kind of daytime acting TV or children's TV or talk shows. Like, it's the top honor. So to be there with people that I actually know and that are in the industry, people, and actually met people that I didn't know, that I've seen on TV for years, like Judge Miriam Millian from People's Court. I was half giddy, half felt like I belonged there. It was like half and half.
Yes,
It's like,
yeah,
a lot of my
that.
friends are in soaps, and I know the soaps, and they know me, and so it was good to see them. And it was fun to see them react to me being there. Like, of course James is here. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Like, they were so happy to see me. But the ones like I didn't know, I met Judge Joe Brown, I saw Larry King. It was like these people that I admire as hosts, that I admire. Like, there they are. And I get to see them and talk to them and be in their presence. And it was just like, I met some of my idols. It was amazing.
Now you stood out because you had on this purple suit,
Yes, I
and I
did.
meant to bring a picture, and I'm so mad that I forgot it because I actually wear purple today.
She did.
In honor.
She did. For me, it's a good.
Of your big moment.
I'm sure Melissa's going to find the picture. It's everywhere. It's a picture of me in my suit.
Yes, it was amazing. And that was a great tip for people that do want to be on camera, though, is that find a way to show your personality and boom, magic happens.
It's funny because that's the thing. I've never used clothing for myself. And they always say, women. No, men too.
Yes.
Okay, well, see, I think she found it.
Did she find it already?
She found it.
I love it.
Men too can actually wear jackets and have clothes that stand out also. And the red carpet, okay, so red carpet people, you've done red carpets, I've done before. It's chaos.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
You're
People don't
like,
see that
there
part
it
of
is,
it.
there it is.
There he is
Oh,
in the purple.
I'm so proud of it.
I mean, but people said, even if they didn't know your name, go to the guy in the purple suit. You know.
did.
So I mean,
They
it
did.
really is a strategy that can work.
They did. There are people who are mad at me next to me. They're like, well, I should have been like, okay, now everybody's gonna go to you. So I did get interviews I would have not gotten.
Right.
I've gotten pictures, like with Kelly Pickler, it was a big picture that went viral. She saw me and she's like, I love your suit. I want to get a picture with you.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those rules. The red carpet is hectic. There's PR people. There's stars coming in. Sometimes they cluster sometimes. Sometimes it's one at a time. It just depends. They have a long line to go down. And I was towards the end.
Okay.
So they placed me. I was under my JLJ meeting.
Which sometimes they just whiz by at the end.
Right,
they're
sometimes.
like, they're just done.
But they go the other side. But they saw my suit and they were
Right.
like, I want to talk to him. And I was like, come on over. Come
great.
on over. And so it was a great strategy. But I also wanted to be myself. I wanted to have something that, as a person of color, I'm Black Hollywood Lives, I can do that as a black man. And as a black woman, a lot of colors are good on us. Don't be afraid of color. Don't be afraid of color.
Yes.
Don't be looking at every camera. Don't be afraid of color. Don't be afraid of color. You get a color and you get a color.
Now everybody's going to be stealing your strategy, so you're going to have to up your game somehow. I'm not sure what you're going to do next time, but.
I already have my outfit for the primetime Emmys already.
Okay, great.
I already have it.
Are you going to give us a color cue or no?
No. No, I'm talking about it. They steal it. But it's one of those things that even if you're not a person of color, whatever your strength is, whatever your coloring is, hair, everything, use it all to your advantage because it really can get you interviews and get you time to stand out. There's a million people with cameras going, me.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, people don't see that. They can't see. And you're lucky, though, because at least you have some height. Like usually when I'm on the red carpet, there are cameras over my head, under my armpit, like all over, because I'm so short that and it's hard to really kind of stand out when you're, surrounded by this cluster of cameras and microphones and lights and people.
Yes.
And so
Very
I
true.
love that. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do for my next red carpet. I'm going to have to give it some thought. But
I was going to ask you about the red carpet. How, for you, what is one tip that you like to give people about the long days? Because it's long days. What's one thing that you do for yourself usually at red carpets?
flat shoes.
That makes total sense, right? Look cute everywhere else, but flat shoes.
No, well, I put the heels on when it's time for the red carpet, and then in between, sometimes, like you said, they're coming in clusters.
Yeah.
Take the things off, baby.
Yes.
Because it does get really long standing there, and even though it looks glamorous, it's work. It is
work.
a lot of work. And
It is work.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like doing interviews with? Because it's really quick. Usually get like maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Exactly.
Minutes. How is it for you when you do red carpet interviews?
I'm from a news background, so for me, it's, we call it run and gun. It's quick, it's fast, it's live, it's in the moment. Forget the BS. We don't need to kind of make nice.
Yeah.
So it kind of plays into my strengths personally.
That makes sense.
But it is also kind of hard to think of questions that are going to stand out. Like you don't want to ask the typical questions. How did you feel about your role? And
Right.
What's your upcoming thing?
Right.
Project. All that stuff you hear over and over and over again. And so some of that is maybe doing some research that other people are not going to be doing and finding something to talk about on the red carpet that's not your typical stuff.
I'm piggyback off of Shay. This is one tip that I do. I try to know at least one thing that's kind of unusual, but not embarrassing.
Right. Exactly.
And that they may have mentioned here and there to make sure I have that in my brain when they walk up.
Yeah. And like one thing I was thinking of, like even, I'm sure the whole world watched the royal wedding, of course, of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry this weekend. And I thought, if I ever get a chance to interview her, she and I went to the same school. We both went to Northwestern. And then I thought, oh, that's so interesting. And as I read a little bit more, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're actually sorority sisters. We're probably like two of the only Black people in America that were in Kappa Kappa Gamma.
Wow.
And then as I looked a little bit further, there was all these little details that were similar. And that's one of the things I usually do with interviews and red carpet. Again, it goes back to the research, but finding a way that you can connect. So maybe they'll tell you something, on the record that they haven't told somebody else.
Yes. Oh, how is that feeling when you have an interview and you unearth somebody go, I've never told anybody this, but. Or,
You absolutely look like you just ate a full chocolate cake.
Yeah, exactly, totally. Oh, I love that, yes.
Yeah, that is definitely the moment that I think every host waits for.
Yeah.
And when you get that moment, it really does feel good. It feels very gratifying, and it's also and you do bond with that person. There are some people that I interviewed that I actually became friends with later on.
Same here.
So
And then, so host that does happen too, and a lot of times that's good because later when they're doing projects, they will come talk to you.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Or they will request you. I've had a few people who, and Marissa knows this here at AfterBuzz, whenever I call, they answer the phone.
Yeah.
And like, I'll come on in.
Yeah.
You know, sure, I'll come on. Well, I asked you, do you answer the phone? And you said, I'll come on in. So I mean, like, we stayed friendly, and that's something that can work sometimes too, to your advantage. Especially with actors or producers or writers who are continually doing work and producing content.
Yes.
It's good over time. I think it's a good thing. So I'm glad you said that, actually. Give me these little tips, folks. Because hosting, let's explain to people, because nowadays, people from outside that are not trained are becoming hosts. I mean, like, and that's not saying anything bad, but like there are actors, sometimes influencers, sports figures, they're becoming hosts. But there is something about being a good host, right?
Yes, absolutely.
There is something. Yeah. So I mean, I want to explain to people that this is not something that everybody. It's teachable.
Definitely teachable.
But not everybody can naturally do it, right? It's not like acting. You can be an actress but not be a great host, and vice versa, right?
Right. And I actually even struggled with becoming a host coming from a news background, and I had to go to a lot of coaching because what you do in news is very different than what you do in hosting, and it took me a while to figure it out because I had. I thought you can just walk in the room and start asking questions.
Yes. See, I can see you as a news person. I totally can see it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of going back a little bit to news just because I'm like, I cannot get Northwestern University School of Journalism out of me, for God's sake, And so sometimes I still sound like a newscaster and I want to ask questions like a newscaster. And hosting is very different. It's much more personality driven. And one of the first things that Marky Costello did with me, who was my coach, she said, well, what do you think? What do you think? And she just kept pushing me because as a journalist, it's not about what you think, it's about what is the story. And so, but as a good host, you have to be ready to interact and be ready to be vulnerable. And I'm like, oh my God, this is painful. It was actually painful for me.
Wow. You said several things that are very important because hosting is partially you personally mixed with some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Professionalism.
Right. Like you look at Ellen DeGeneres, for example. I think she's probably obviously one of the best in the business, that mix of personality. But at the same time, sometimes you don't feel like you're getting the full story from her. And so she's got...
You go to Oprah.
Right.
Even Wendy Williams, sometimes you'll get the full story sometimes with her. Or Larry King. Or Barbara Walters.
So it's different styles. Or like Carson Daly, I feel like we don't even really see him. But that's one of the strengths of him as a host. I feel like he lets the talent shine. So I think it's also knowing... your audience and what they want to see, knowing what is the objective of that program too, and how much of it is you and how much of it is letting your other people shine and being able to step back. So that's why it's a lot of learning, and it's not just sitting in front of the camera saying, "Hi, I'm pretty." And one of the things my coach said to me, she said, "No one cares about your pretty lipstick," meaning it's not just about sitting there and looking pretty. There's a lot more to it.
One of the things for me, and I have not had this conversation with anybody, so this is fun for me. I'm having it on camera. The camera. That was something that, because I come from radio. Radio.
Makes sense, total sense.
Yeah, my voice comes from radio. 3 years and next
Best
week.
voice for radio.
Thank you. 3 years in radio so far in June. So, so getting used to the camera, and then I was an actor at one point too. So the camera has always been this thing. In various mediums, it's either ignore the camera, or somebody just look at the camera and make it your friend. And in hosting, you're looking at the camera most of the time.
Right.
Like in this situation, I do both. I look at you, I look at the camera. I feel like my people are with me. They're right there, so I'm talking to you both. It was hard at first to not look at the camera and then look at the camera and then because I'm an actor. It's like, don't look at the camera, just act. The camera's right here, now action. You're like, blah, blah, and then. Oh, but no, I can look at the camera now. The camera's my friend. Okay, that's fine. That can be hard too sometimes.
It is. There's so many elements to balance, and learning how to juggle them, especially when you throw in things like if there is a teleprompter in your camera sometimes, and it goes out, and then you're like, okay, now.
Well, when the news Was there anything that, like, a big flub that happened?
Oh, there were so many of them. It's hysterical.
Really?
I think my favorite one, though, was when I worked at WHO TV, which is an NBC affiliate out in the Midwest. And, of course, bad weather is...
Yes, of course.
But that drives up the ratings, so I was always sent to cover it because it was always our top story, and I was
Really?
one of our top reporters. So it was like bad weather, send Shay out there to do a live shot, and we're telling people, do not come out because it's so bad, you will die out here, And so I would be out there going, the one saying that. And one time, just as we're getting ready to go on air, they throw to me, and this blast of icy air comes, and I go sliding down the cliff.
Oh my goodness!
And the only thing coming out of my mouth is F-bombs.
Oh, I'm sure. No, I'm sure. Oh,
and
Lord.
we're already on air.
Oh, oops.
And I have to thank this guy named Ed Wilson, who is still there. He is still the meteorologist. And Ed said, he totally covered for me. And he said, I don't know why we send the smallest person in the newsroom out in the most ferocious conditions. And so then all of a sudden, all the viewers are writing in going, how could you do that to that poor girl?
How funny is that?
Why did you do that?
Wow.
So I mean, there are so many flubs when you're live.
Yeah.
You just can't control it, and you just have to learn how to run with it, and hopefully watch your potty mouth. And
Yes, I have. Well, because all I do here is live TV. This is live right now. I've done over thousands of hours of live TV. So for me, I've come up with sayings like cheese and crackers.
Oh, that's good.
God bless
that's
America.
Good. See, that's a strategy for me. Oh, I like that.
I do.
That is a
I have
strategy.
and now the fans know when I'm about to
Right,
say something.
right.
They know what I mean. I'm all kiss my grits.
Oh.
Things like that.
Are you from the South?
My family is, yes.
I was going to say, I haven't heard the word grits in a long time.
Yeah, my family's from Louisiana. From Louisiana,
Okay,
so
Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Yeah.
So I found myself substituting words to make so I don't, because you can't cuss or anything.
Right.
I've had a few come out here and there, but I'm usually pretty good about now.
I don't know
Yes.
where I get a truck driver mouth. Here I am, this wonderful little Baptist
I
girl
know.
from Georgia. it's the newsroom environment. It goes back to that.
Well,
I'm going to blame it all on
Yeah,
that.
sure, right on. What I say sometimes the ones who have a cuss are of highly intelligent.
Oh, well, I will believe that too then.
I'm really intelligent then, off camera. I don't.
No, but I love your strategy though, because then it can kind of voice frustration and maybe be a little cue to your
Yes.
team. Okay, something's
Yes.
not working here.
Right, so like, okay, guys,
Let's adjust.
Like cheese and crackers.
Right,
what is
I'm gonna
going
have to
on
think
here?
of something.
Think of
I don't
something
know.
that's natural.
I
This way it's
am.
natural to
Yeah,
you.
that feels
So that's a
natural.
strategy. I do it all the time. I've been doing it for years, and now they become sayings. When people
Right,
get ready for me. Now news. I always tell myself I don't want to do news. I have a nephew who does news. He's in South Carolina. I think it just must be just so. I mean, it's anything good news. It's always like bad news. It seems like.
Unfortunately, that is the nature of that beast,
Yeah.
and that's what drives ratings. That's what people tune in for.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you get the good stories like the royal wedding or something
Yeah.
like that. But really, it's just not wired to be a feel good medium, and that was frustrating for me. And like one time, I tried to do a story. I covered a lot of crime, and there was a man that rescued somebody in a wheelchair who was being robbed. And I thought, here we go. Here's a nice little Batman and civilian clothes story. My news director nixed it. He said, we don't do that kind of story. And that was really frustrating for me. And so, if you watch some of the networks, though, they are starting to put, the person of the week or something like that at the very end, something to give some hope to the viewers.
Oh,
Right.
geez.
We need it. We need it.
We do.
And I wish it was a little bit different, but
Yeah.
it is the way it is.
How long did you do news?
Oh my goodness, a long time, ever since graduate school.
Okay.
So, and it's just something that I felt I wanted to tell stories that make a difference. I wanted to be at the front seat of the things going on in the world, but at the same time, the personal toll. They can't prepare you for that in school, and especially when all you see is death. Because I mainly did crime, it really, I really shut down, and I knew I was pretty shut down when I think I mentioned this a year ago. We had this execution going on, and of an inmate, and I was furious that my news director wasn't going to send me, and he's like, "You're going to witness an execution," and I'm like, "That's fine. That's my job."
Right. You're right. Hello. That's what you guys pay me to do.
I mean, there was literally no heart in me left. I'm like, so what? What's the big deal? I'm like, it's just another story.
Oh my god! But I mean, it's almost. I used to be a nurse, so it's almost like
Okay.
they're.
Oh my gosh,
So
the things
yeah,
we didn't know
yeah.
about you.
I was a nurse, and
Wow.
and I was a geriatric nurse, so I had a lot of death also.
Oh wow.
But there's a point where we don't get detached, but we get a little desensitized a little bit. You know, we're professional, but it's like you see so much death or so much sickness, and you said at some point, you know, it comes in, you handle it.
Yeah. Yes.
I guess the news, same thing. You handle it.
You're trained to do it, and I felt like that's why I wanted to still use my on-camera skills and everything I had learned, and I thought hosting would be a good way to hosting and both acting. To really come into a different side of who I am, that I didn't have to live shut down and live desensitized to the world. And so that's what my journey has been into hosting.
We're going to show you on this program. I always find little videos here and there. This was on one of her pages on YouTube.
Wait, a video?
Let's show that right now.
That's awesome. This is perfect.
Yes, we can talk about this. So, I love horseback riding.
Black girl on horse.
That's right. I love it. I love it.
You don't see that too often,
no,
right?
You don't.
Nope.
No, you don't. But you're behind the scenes training for a movie, right?
Yes, that is actually having its premiere on June 9th. A Horse from Heaven.
Very good.
Dave DeVos is our wonderful director.
Yes.
That was an amazing project.
Okay, tell me about it.
And
what can you tell me about it?
What can I tell you? Well, it premieres at Grauman's on June 9th, and it's a family-friendly film about this girl who is kind of lost in her world and develops a relationship with a horse that really changes her life and the lives of her around her. And I play the part of a teacher, and I think mine got cut though, so you'll see me in some clips, but my speaking role, we had some problems on the day of the shoot, having to make some transitions. But I stayed working with that project for several weeks just because it was just an amazing group of people. I actually was raised around horses in the Midwest. My family was living in a small little rural town, so a lot of my friends had horses. We just, go hop on the horse after school. So I grew up with that, which is very unusual, like you said, for black people, but it's something I still love to do.
I know, I love horseback.
I'm so not your city girl. It's funny. I'm like, okay, oh my God, give me a horse and some weeds and a mountain.
You'll be happy.
I'm totally happy.
I love that. No, I do. I love the open air too. Trust me.
Yeah.
What is one thing from your acting that you actually bring into your hosting? Is there anything you bring into it, or is it completely separate?
They are separate. I would say for me, it's the thing that I have battled, which is that being vulnerable. And in acting, it is completely vulnerable and completely transparent. And sometimes your emotions can actually take over when you're in a scene because you're so sensing and feeling exactly what your character would be. And next thing you know, like one time I was auditioning for something, and my husband was supposed to, the actor husband was supposed to be leaving, and I didn't know if he would return because it was going on a dangerous mission. And just something hit me where I just started bawling uncontrollably. And the realism, I just kept thinking, well, so many people go through this in real life.
Oh, yeah.
And so that sense of vulnerability, which was a change for me from news, because news, it's all about not showing my personality, not showing when I want to cry about a story or something like that. And so hosting hosting and acting both have kind of opened that part of me. I'm still working on it, just because I think, coming from a military family too, so I've got like the triple curses of like, I am strong, do not even never gonna see a tear here.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll tell you, for me, and a lot of fans know this, on this show, I've cried many times. But what broke through for me is I lost a brother. So I think that, and I found out after one of my shows. So I was here when I found out. So everybody kind of knew, like everybody knew I'd lost a brother, and the fans were you guys were so wonderful, as you guys know, were so wonderful to me. But I know after that, I found myself just really opened up. It really helped my hosting.
Yeah.
So when I tell, I had, on this show, I had Miss Miko Branch, who's the CEO of Miss Jessie's Hair Care Products. And she had lost her sister. And they wrote a book together about, we were talking. I was going to be more compassionate. I can get it a little bit, because it's like I can be present with her fully. That's where the vulnerability comes in, being present. Not saying you're not present now, but it's like you can be even more present when you're vulnerable and you're feeling
absolutely
the emotion and kind of guide them.
And that can really, as a host or an actor, those two things they're gold, to be honest with you, when they happen on camera. That's the moment, again, it goes back to that red carpet question too. Those are the moments you wait for.
Yes.
And that really make people feel like they're connected to you too. And so that, I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, but it's helped me out.
Yeah.
It has. It's helped me. Because I know Oprah was the first to really
Yeah,
Oprah was the first to kind of let
really,
the emotions
yeah.
out. Donahue was close, but Oprah actually cried with her guests, and that's everybody said the ugly crowd. I guess they always talk all the time.
Yeah, us black women do not cute cry. We do it just. Have you ever seen one cute cry? No. I don't know why. What is that? It's not gonna happen cute. So.
I love it. But my cries aren't pretty either, and I'm like Vegas, and I have cried happy tears on the show. I've cried bad. I mean, when I celebrated my 2-year anniversary, I just started crying. Like, it's like because the thing about being host, and this is something that I don't take for granted. That I have a show, first of all. I'm a black man who has a show. I'm talking to another black woman who has history in news and hosting and acting. Like, look at us.
Yeah.
I'm like, and we're on our way up. We're making moves, doing things. But I don't take it for granted. I just really don't.
No, I can't take it for granted because my dad's a military guy, and just my idol, and just knowing what he was willing to sacrifice. I mean, he really instilled in us a love of country. That as a black person, and now having traveled around the world myself, there's no place I have the freedoms that I do in America, and I do not take. I don't care what people say about how bad things are.
Right.
I have been where as a black woman, especially as a single black woman, I'm nobody in a lot of places, and so to be able to have the opportunities I've had in this country, I don't take it for granted. And now talking about being vulnerable, like my dad is in a place where his health is declining rapidly, and I'm like, Dad, I want to honor you somehow with my life. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm going to make sure that and he taught me to be a fighter. I'm going to fight for something that matters. I'm going to fight to make a difference. I'm going to fight to make my voice heard. And
you cry. Oh my Jesus! I know. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So
y'all got me already. Oh my God! I'm starting already. That's good because I always say that our ancestry, whether they're related to us or not, they're related to us.
Yeah.
And in this country, people like Oprah Winfrey, didn't look like what we saw on television. Or Whoopi Goldberg, who carved a way out in Hollywood. And I look at them and I just think, wow, 40, 50 years, we've come this far that we still have a way to go, of course, but I don't take it for granted. We're still all connected, and they did things so that we don't have to.
Yes, exactly. And talking about Oprah, I was being raised in Chicago when her show first came on.
Oh wow, okay.
And the other little kids. It was a mostly white town. In fact, almost all white. And unfortunately, the only other black family had the same last name.
Are you serious? You weren't related?
Not related at all. I could not get away with doing anything. I know. And we weren't related. Could not do anything because they would say, "Oh, there was a little black kid, that was out after curfew," and they just call one of the Hollands, and their kids were good.
Oh, they're good. It's so funny. You're like,
no, I was a bad kid.
I love that.
So, but I don't. And so everybody would tease me, calling me Little Oprah. They'd be like, "Oh, you're gonna be Little Oprah. You're gonna be, that's my alarm for checking in on the plane."
Oh my God!
How am I gonna get over there and turn that off?
Okay, so go ahead and if you want to go over there really quick, I got to do a commercial
thing. Do I have headphones on?
Headphones on. This is real life, you guys. This is the life of a host. She has a thing to go to. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell you one of the reasons why that we have these shows here at AfterBuzz TV is because of our fearless leader, Maria Menounos. You can go right over there. Just go underneath or whatever. The camera's on me. Just go over there and do it. This is real life, folks. This is real life. Okay. One of the reasons why we do this is because Maria Menounos, our fearless leader, who supports this show, she totally supports this show, she has a podcast. And her podcast is called Conversations with Maria Menounos Podcast Edition. And it's hosted by her, and it drops every Friday on iTunes. Maria has a very diverse people on her shows, celebrity influencers, people from different walks of life. She does things on gun health and wellness and career and relationships and finances. She does really in-depth interviews, and I've walked away with some tips by listening to her podcast many times. And and for some of you guys, they always say she's the big sister you always wanted. Well, for me, she's a little sister because I'm a little older than she is. But she is one of the nicest people that I know. And I say, everybody go to iTunes, go and subscribe to Conversations with Maria Menounos. It's free. And what I want you to do is, if you do go subscribe and comment and rate, let them know that James Lott Jr., that's right, JamesLottJr, from Breaking Into on Black Hollywood Live, sent you there. Make sure you do that. It's called Conversations with Maria Menounos, and you should check it out. It's good. I think for everybody, any age, gender, just check it out. One time she did a whole thing on pet care, so because she loves animals, we love animals. And she does things on health because she had her health issues. So it's a great program. So you should check it out every Friday. That's why we get to do that here. And again, with this show, thank you so much for supporting the show. Barefoot actually supports my show too, and that's why we're drinking Barefoot Bubbly, because they sent me a case of all kinds of goodies and stuff, and I just love that their stuff is so good. Trust me, folks that I know who don't even drink champagne like their champagne. They have all kinds of flavors. So cheers to you, and Shay, of course, and cheers to you out there. And they give some good stuff. So, and their prices are good. Their prices are really good out there for some of these. Like you can get some of these for like $8.99, $9.99. And they're nice big bottles too. I like lots of alcohol. So I'm excited to say that to you guys. So that's our commercial portion of the show. Have you checked in?
I haven't. I'm waiting. It's coming. It's coming, right? You know, it's like this strategy with Southwest. You got to set your alarm.
And funny.
Because
well, where are you headed to? Tell me where you're headed to.
Okay, I'm heading up to San Francisco. I've got a big gala up there on Thursday for Presidio Dance Theater. And they
Presidio,
do, and they're a great organization that provides free performing arts education for underserved youth, I guess is the politically correct term today.
Yes.
And, and so I have been working as a communications officer for them, handling their press and media outreach and everything like that, because it's going to be also at one of my favorite venues, which is at the Palace of Fine Arts Theater
on
Thursday.
Beautiful.
Isn't it incredible? And it's been redone. And
God.
So I'm like, this is my dream to be able to do events in the Palace of Fine Arts Theater.
Wow.
And
so 1 second, Marissa. Did you go there when you were up there? Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
We love art. So I was wondering if you went and you saw it.
It's a gorgeous building.
Gorgeous building.
Yes. So we get to, so it'll be a dance performance. It's called with all kinds of different cultural dances. Almost all kinds of countries represented. And this organization has done an amazing job with just, making a mark in kids' lives through the performing arts. And unfortunately, the founder is wrestling with breast cancer, and so some of the work that she would have done, I stepped in to do, and so that's kind of how that all happened.
Damn cancer!
Yeah, I'm telling you.
I'm not a fan. Not a fan at all. It's just it doesn't care who you are or what you are or what gender or orientation. It is just bad.
Yes, yeah. So under sad circumstances, but it's that showbiz term. The show must go on.
Yeah.
And together the team decided, this show must go on,
good.
And so that's what we're doing. So I get to fly out tomorrow to head on up there.
Hey, are you checked in yet? Is that happening yet?
I'm all checked in. I'm all set. I got the A group. Like the thing with Southwest, if you don't get that A group, you may as well go to Iceland, because who knows what's going to happen.
So true. Oh my God.
But gotta love them. I do love that airline. If your plans change, they're golden.
No,
so
seriously. And it comes, folks out there, if you're a host that goes out to travel places, which I travel places sometimes for things, they're good because their rate of crashing very low. No, I was about that. They're very low. They leave on time mostly. They leave on time. Mm-hmm. They're very good about that. And they used to have connections to everywhere. It's like we can kind of get somewhere through Southwest, and their prices are not bad.
And the free baggage check thing for the first two. You can't beat it these days.
No, you can't. I'm sorry. Sorry, Spirit Airlines.
I was going to try them for the first time, but
they can dime you. So the ticket's $9, but then let me get started. Let me sip my tea.
James having a little moment. Mm-hmm. This is that. Oh, you're so sweet.
Yeah, so just bless your heart.
Right. The Southern expression.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to start in on Spirit Airlines. Okay, so the thing about hosting, I really want people who might be watching this who want to be hosts. What is one thing you wish someone had told you when you started?
Oh my goodness, I would say it's that saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You think it's going to happen pretty quickly, especially if you've got some connections and you've been on camera before, or if you're an influencer. And that's usually just not the way it works. And it's, making sure you take the classes, making sure you're constantly learning and constantly growing.
I like that.
Yeah, and that and when you get in the room, I think that really the thing that set me back for a while was getting these really big auditions, some that would be months and months long. The process. I
know those. I've been in a few of those.
Oh my gosh! And then you don't get it, and it's heartbreaking almost because you put months of investment into this audition.
I've done sizzle reels. I've recorded things and it didn't come through.
And I think that what I would tell somebody is that means you've made it. If you're there, you've made it. It's not just getting the job that means you make it. And that would change the mindset, I think. Because I was like, oh my God, I'm a failure and I just need to quit the business, because I wouldn't get it. And no, honey child, there's another expression more, you have made it if you're getting in that room.
I like that. The thing is, if you get called back
Yeah.
for anything,
Yes.
that's success,
You've done
right?
something. You're doing something absolutely right.
Because how many hosts are out there trying to get callbacks?
You know, and there's one casting agent that when you walk into, when I'm doing some of my auditioning, and they say, you are one in 2,000 who was submitted for this role. Don't take it for granted that you're in this room. You're here because we want you here. Because usually there's only 24 or so that are called in for that audition out of the 2,000 to 4,000 that have submitted. And that's the same thing with hosting, you know, especially for some of the big jobs, you know, like QVC or some of the other ones, you know, which we get those castings in our group.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking, those are international castings. And so to even get a call is a huge accomplishment.
Oh, I smile.
Yeah.
I mean, because the same thing when it comes to when I book a guest or somebody. I'm like, if it's somebody really big and they actually say yes to me, I'm like, that's good.
Right.
They saw me. They're saying they're considering me,
Yeah.
and that's why the Emmys were very important to me because it was I had applied before and didn't get it, and now they finally, I guess they said, the Academy said I was worthy as JLJ Media to go do it.
Congrats! Wow, and it feels good.
It feels
you know?
good.
And I think learning to celebrate what the victories, even if they're small, and really taking a moment to just do something that feels good for some, you know, to celebrate, so that it's not just this drudgery and it's not just this marathon, slow, you know, agony, because it takes a while. And I know it's a journey that, you know, it's going to have its ups and downs. You know, and sometimes the downs are going to feel really down.
They are, and that's the thing I had to really, even for me, I've been in this business 10 years, and it took me at the 8-year mark to finally get that it's going to ebb and flow all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah. And even when you've made it on a show, like a friend of mine, she was on the Marvelous Inhumans, which didn't, you know, get great ratings. Now it's canceled.
Right.
And so, but her journey was amazing. You know, she went in her acting school. They told her, you know, you're so bad that we don't think we even want you in our showcase.
Wow. Wow.
And then, but she wouldn't quit. You know, something in her was like, I feel like this is still what I'm made to do. And the next year, here she is on a Marvel, with the Marvels franchise. And now here it is a year later, and now that show is canceled. So talk about ebbs and flows. I mean, we're all going to have them, and I think it's learning not to let this business be your identity, because
I like that.
Yeah, that's what I've definitely had to learn for sure. Because again, if you allow that to become your identity, then you're going to be a mess. You're going to be pulling the Britney Spears shit.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously, yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I like that. I love that advice. It's one of those things where, like, for me, I have other things going on. You have other things going on outside of hosting, and that has helped me. Because I do have other outlets. I do music, I do writing. So I have other outlets that I do in the meantime. Yeah. You know, luckily I have a show and I do host podcasts. But like, there's things I do go out for. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you get calls, sometimes you don't. Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I think my outlet is definitely, you know, family and my neighbors' kids. They're 6 and 4 now. And I just love spending time with them because it brings me back to, okay, this is what life was like as a kid, and how can I get some of that wonder and awe and fun and excitement back into my own life? And some of that's just, you know, spending time with them. And like before I came here, I left a little treasure hunt for them. You know, because I have this teddy bear they love, and so I went and found the teddy bear and I hid it in one of their rooms and I put a treasure hunt. And I'm like, you know what, this is life right here. It is. I'm so glad you said it, because I have grandkids. I have kids and grandkids. Oh my goodness. So when I go see them, I'm Papa Jamie. They don't care that I'm on television or have an album out or anything. They can give 2 craps. Right. And that's a great leveler for me. It does keep me grounded. Like, you know, whether this hosting thing works out or not or whatever, I still have them to have my life. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I think for me, it's, you know, my day jobs have definitely been the leveler too. Yes. Because and that's another thing you asked me, what would a host know? You're probably going to have a day job. Yeah. And that's just the reality of the thing of the business too. A lot of the jobs do not pay well, even when you are getting, you know, on the red carpet and everything. Right. Those jobs pay. They're not paying you enough to live on, honey. No, not in LA at least. No, they're not. You know, maybe if you're going to Missouri or something, but this is going to be a little hard to audition. Well, I also think that as a host, and then you tell me if you agree or disagree, that you kind of have to know what kind of hosting you want to do, don't you? I absolutely. It helps. I mean, if you don't, obviously there's a learning process, and classes can definitely help in getting feedback of professionals, for sure. It's what I had to go through. I really started out more thinking, okay, I fell into the red carpet hosting because I was working at the Hollywood Reporter, and so it was just a natural transition to, you know, I was used to being around red carpet, being around celebrities.
But it's not exactly, I feel like for me, what my strength is or what brings me a lot of joy, to be honest with you, just to be interviewing celebrities. I want the story to be deeper than that.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get
somehow.
that. Yeah,
but it's also a lot of fun at the same time too. So I think I'm still, coming into figuring myself out, and part of that is just I'm embracing finally the fact that I have this news background, and maybe a morning talk show is better for me than something else, because it's just hardwired into me that if something is happening, to be in that moment with it, or if there's going to be breaking news, hey, I can transition here for you. Let's go. We got some breaking news.
Right, you could, yes, definitely.
And so I'm starting to now, instead of forgetting my past, I'm starting to embrace it and say, okay, how can I bring that in to what I really want to do? So for me, life has definitely been a journey of discovery, of discovering myself and evolving.
I like that, actually. Taking some of your past, instead of shutting it or trying to block it out, bring it with you, because it may help you. Well, for me, my nursing, my retail experience, my waitering, all that stuff comes into play when I'm interviewing somebody.
Yes, and I'm gonna give you my very first. What do we say when you're gonna say? You're gonna tell something I haven't told somebody else. I'm gonna tell you something I haven't told somebody else.
Okay, can we sit up? I'm ready. I'm ready. You already got me crying earlier, so they got me started. So I'm ready.
I was watching, from Cannes Film Festival, and there was a very unscripted moment that happened with one of the actors who was said she was raped by Harvey Weinstein. And, we've heard these stories over and over, and it's been heartbreaking. And, obviously our industry was due for a cleansing.
Oh, yes.
And that's another thing, as a host, the sexual harassment. We've all seen it.
Oh, yes. Even I've heard it. Yes, I've seen it.
But I will tell you, I worked for Harvey Weinstein.
Oh.
And yes. And so the thing, though, what I definitely learned through that experience, life, as dark as this has been, there were also so much of that job that allowed me to be sitting here today, because I'm like, you know what? I can't just sit around and be silent. I can't just sit around and do nothing when I see, for an example, injustice. So the positive I'm taking from that is it lit a fire to say, you know what? Harvey Weinstein is no different than anybody else in terms of he is just a man. Why can't I go out and say, I want to do something great for the world? I actually have more degrees than he does, for God's sake,
Hello.
So it lit a fire in me somehow to say, I wanted my life to count for something a lot more than it is right now. And so that was part of why I said, James, I'll do your show. Absolutely. It's time to, for me, I think to stop hiding behind the things that are safe and step into things that are unknown.
Well, I'll tell you something, and thanks for sharing that. I'll tell you something. I had a guest who mentioned they were raped, and so I mentioned that I was raped also.
Oh my gosh.
And it was one of those things where I came to a point where, as host, it's something you'll have to come to at some point, how vulnerable you're going to be. And I felt like I had to say something. And I wasn't feeling ashamed. I mean, I've talked about it off camera. I've done talks at places and stuff. But I felt like at that moment, she's being real and honest. And the viewers are listening, and I'm like, it's my turn to also be real and honest. And I did feel released when I said it. Just out on camera, I was like, I was a victim of a violent rape. I was beaten up, and the whole thing was crazy. It was crazy, and I survived it, and she survived hers, and we're both working through our stuff. And but like you said, it was a choice. I was like, okay, I want to share that. Yeah, I'm not gonna hide behind it. And I found I got lots of support from people, of course. But it was like now all my interviews are informed by I say it over and over again, being present with my guests. Yeah.
And I will say, he never molested me or in that way. Only I actually ended up getting somewhat close to a family member of his.
Oh, wow.
And that's why, it wasn't black and white for me, even though I felt like, okay, I see things that aren't right.
Yes.
But for me, it was, at the same time, there was a level of humanity that there are some people here that I have grown to really deeply care about, and their lives are going to be destroyed.
Right.
And now that they have, unfortunately, anyway. But it's something that for me has, I think, marked me forever, and also allowed me to see that, I don't know, for some reason, just put a sense of destiny in me. Like, I'm where I belong.
Yes.
If I can survive that, and that was like the hardest, I will say I've had hard jobs in Hollywood.
Yeah, definitely.
Like everybody but to be able to come out on the other side of that now, tells me I'm where I belong to. Yeah. So there's, I don't know, you might be sensing like this new fire. I'm like, where is my territory? Give it to me.
I love it. I do. I I feel it. I love it. I feel it.
So I feel like it's finally time to come into that moment that all of us have, and that school can't prepare you for, and your childhood doesn't prepare you for. It's something that life has to prepare you for.
Yes, definitely. And for me especially, I'm happy to be here. Yeah. I don't take anything for granted, and I feel like this is where I am. And so, and everything that's ever happened to me, I have no regrets. It all comes to this. And this is pretty good. Yeah.
And like I was with some people from my school, Northwestern, the other day, and we were saying, nothing prepares you for royalty, meaning, because Meghan Markle went to Northwestern, and we're like, school didn't prepare her for that.
No, not at all.
We went to that school. No, we did not walk around with tiaras on our head in class.
And she's been interviewed by some of my colleagues here, so she's been here. So it's just, she was an actress.
And it's the things in life, and we get to make a choice. It's not that we all have to go out and marry a prince, although if there are already ones out there. She wants
one. Any good ones?
He doesn't even have to be a prince.
I'll say black prince, white prince, whatever. Just call him prince.
I'm actually partial to athletes, I have to admit.
There you go, athletes. Over here, girl, over here.
I do. I'm very athletic. And so, that would do it for me.
One of the questions I want to ask you about, I want to talk about, because it's very important, I think, is the whole question of doing things for free versus getting paid.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I actually just had a conversation last night with a director, and the cast and crew were being charged for the tickets to the premiere, and it just made me furious because I'm starting to see this trend in Hollywood. Not only are people not getting paid, then they're being charged to go see the work that they sacrificed for, and it just got under my skin. But we had a great conversation, and I think there are times when hosts are going to have to work for free, and actors too, especially when you're just starting out. Or maybe it's a cause that you truly believe in, perhaps, and they don't have it in the budget. But a lot of times it could be in the budget if the people really cared to give hosts the recognition that they deserve. And so that's one of the things I've been fighting for in Host in LA. And that's why I have insisted on transparency in the group from casting directors. If you're not going to pay people, put that in the casting. And you've seen it. I will delete the casting if it's not there. Because I'm like, we want to know up front, who are you cheap people?
Exactly. But seriously, yes.
Right.
I agree with that. Let me sip my tea again. I do agree with that.
So it's something I feel very strongly about. And I will tell you, and maybe that comes from, I am a person of faith. I'm a Christian, and there's a verse in the Bible that says, pay the laborer who's worthy of his wages. So I'm going to quote some scripture at you. Drop it like that pastor at the Markle wedding, But it says, it's a principle that I think that needs to be honored. And for example, in this case with the tickets to this premiere, we're talking maybe $500 for a director who's going to make, how much money off of a film. And I have to give him great credit. He picked up the phone. He called me. He said, Shay, I hear you.
Oh, well, okay.
And he said, this is what I want you to know I'm going to do about it. So it was amazing, And so that was another example of, I could have just fumed all day. And I'm like, I'm not going to and go. You think I'm going to pay for my ticket when I worked every day driving 2 hours to get there? And so it's the principle of the matter. But it makes people know that their work is just as valuable as anybody else.
I agree. I think people should know to value yourself. And whether you believe it or not, we're all connected as hosts. And when you devalue yourself, you're devaluing all of us.
Yes. And it's something that we all have to learn. I have had my own journey with that. I've taken jobs that did not pay me fairly. And I think we all have. And I think it's a learning process because there's fear, at least for me, there's been fear of lack of, resources. Oh God, if I don't take it, I'm going to starve, And, maybe I needed to.
But seriously, that's the thing. Like, I know we get scared because money. Money is important, and I get it. And sometimes we'll do things for the money. I totally get it. But sometimes, maybe if you eat that one more day, so you have faith. Maybe tomorrow you got that job you wanted.
You know what? And we've heard it said for every no, for every time we say no, it's because we're being prepared for the right yes.
Yes.
And that's a hard lesson to learn, especially when you live in a place as expensive as where we live, And I was raised watching my dad work several jobs just, to provide for our family. And so that's kind of been my MO. But I just realized I've been exhausting myself at these jobs that I know are not anything that, I'm being called to in my destiny and that mean anything to me at the end of the day. And for me, one of the jobs I ended up, was working 15 to 17 hours a day. Who moves to Hollywood and gains 40 pounds? Like I gained 40
pounds. Oh my goodness.
And I'm not that tall.
Wow, how crazy.
So it was like, and it was my body saying, you're killing us, Wow.
That's amazing. But I tell people out there, just, be careful, be leery, know your worth. If you feel like, don't be too cocky about it and overvalue yourself.
Right.
But if you're starting out, I think, there's times where you may have to do, and sometimes it's the exposure more than the money that pays off in the end, too.
Yes. Sometimes. Yeah.
Depends on the problem. It depends on the
So are you paying me today?
In champagne and compliments. That's what I'm paying you today in champagne and compliments.
I just put you on the spot. I'm sorry, James.
I love it. I love it.
Totally.
I love it. She's on fire.
Just feeling feisty.
She is. She's on fuego. That's right.
Black girls rock.
That's right. And you guys do. I love it. And now, it just times by so fast. So I ask my guests the same 2 questions on every show. You guys out there, you guys know this. I do not prep them in advance because I want their reactions that are authentic. Language is very important to me. And I think this is my 111th show. It's my 10th or 11th show.
I hope it's the 111th. I like 111.
Me too. So I want to look later to see how to count. Okay, I've asked about 111 people to answer this question already. And it's going to be a word or a phrase. What word or phrase should we not say anymore in English language?
What word or phrase?
Say anymore.
I would say, I know for me, I mentioned, I had gained all that weight and my body was killing me. And the thing I would always say to myself was, this is just the way it is. I come from a family of obese people from generation and generation. And I just figured I was on the way there. This is just who I am. I can't change this. And that would be the phrase I would say. That's just as a lie. We can't.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it wasn't a lot of work, in my example, like the first time I tried to run 2 blocks, I thought I was going to have to call an ambulance. I needed a nurse. I'm not kidding.
I
was
girl.
crying.
I understand that, girl. I totally understand.
And every day it was like, this might be just the way it
is. Oh, I understand, totally.
But I had watched my grandmother, once the diabetes set in, cutting off her feet, cutting off her legs. And I'm like, no, this can't be this can't be how the story ends for me.
Yeah.
And it took a lot of making that choice. So that would be the phrase, is that this is just how it's always been or how it's always going to be.
Now, the converse of that. So I'd like to leave on a positive note. What word or phrase should we say more of?
Let's see. The word or phrase we should, don't be afraid.
That's a new one. No one said that so far. I like that.
I think because I have battled fear in so many areas, and I know it. I've said no to so many possible opportunities. When I first started reporting,
really,
I was getting a lot of interest immediately because I was covering a lot of breaking news, and so I was having a lot of stories fed up to NBC. Within the first year, I'm getting a call from CBS in New York. I still remember the woman's name, Joan Roth. I don't know if she's still in the business. She said, "CBS, we want to create a position for you," and fear just set in so strong. I mean, this is the opportunity that I went to school for. This is everything that a journalist wants, is for the network to say, we want to create a position for you. I told him I couldn't take it. I made up all kinds of excuses.
Wow.
I said, I had just started a new job. I was committed. I didn't even have a contract, I don't think. Wow. I could have been on the next plane out of there.
Yeah.
But it was just fear. It was so much fear. And I think for me, that has been one of the things that has truly ruled my life. I don't know where it comes from. Fear of failure, has always been, I think for people who are kind of high accomplishing, type, whatever people, the fear of failure actually can paralyze us. And so
I always say, I put my life coach hat on, because I'm a certified life coach. I don't believe in failure. I take the word, that's one word I don't say anymore. It's all experience, because as you said something earlier, and I'm also, believing in, I have faith also. I always say that every door that closes literally just shortens your path to the right thing.
That's good. That's good.
It's closing. I may really wanted that job, and I thought that was going to save my life. Didn't get it. It just means that wasn't right. So close the door. So now the path is getting clearer, and it's getting narrower and narrower and clearer and clearer.
Yeah.
All these doors are open, so they're distracting me. This is getting clearer. So now I go that way. That's what I want at some point. Whatever that is. I don't really know what that is, but that's going to lead me to where I want.
And I think it's okay to take a moment to grieve the door.
Yes.
And
I agree with that.
Don't let it stop you. I had a door closed just recently that I thought was it, and it was heartbreaking, to be honest with you, because I didn't expect it to close either. Everything had been yes, and then boom. And I'm like, wait, I'm banging on the door, kicking on the door.
I'll tell you something, folks. I had something that recently too, that for 2 years I was involved with. The company dismantled the department.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was on track. I was in there. You would have saw me on some cable network. I was getting there. It was that close, and then they dismantled the whole department.
Yep, been there, done that, for sure. One of my first biggest disappointments, I was called into audition for Extreme Makeover Home Edition, which, I love home stuff. I think it was 2008 because it was, just before something happened on that show that, wiped the whole show out for a season.
I remember that,
so to be in the room, and I got called back for a second audition on it and everything, and then and I love anything to do with home. I'm passionate about.
I know you do. We had to
that's my side, baby.
Yes, it is.
And so to get that opportunity, and and it all looked great, and then to have that door close instantly by something I could not control. It was nothing I did. So I think when you've been through a series of disappointments, it's harder to let them just say, okay, just let that door close.
Yes.
But you're right, and it might be a journey. It's that back to it's a marathon, and appreciating everything that you take from each of those things, which is what I've really had to do the last 2 years, with this whole Weinstein thing. I've said, okay, I have got to somehow turn this where I'm not I'm not in agony over what I could have done.
Right.
And how can I turn it into a positive now, and how can I come out from that season of life, which was devastating. Actually, when I was working on the film with the horses, I was actually running from that.
Wow.
So it's been a journey the last couple of years. I'm not gonna lie, it's been absolutely brutal.
Yeah, and you're a survivor, girl.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
I'm glad you came today.
Thank you, James.
You have to come back sometime.
Absolutely, I would love to. And can I give a shout out to Host in LA?
Please,
all
please
of our
do.
hosts, all of you out there, thank you so much for being part of the group. You make it what it is, especially to our gatekeepers, our casting directors, our agents, our managers who are in the group. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for giving us a shot. And I can't wait to see where we go from here.
I agree. And it's going to give a little shout out to Host in New York, too, over there. I have a lot of friends in New York who are hosts, and you guys are doing great stuff out there, too. So, I mean, this is a business that I love it. I love our business.
It's amazing. It's so much fun.
I love our business.
And the people you get to meet.
You do. We're fortunate. I mean, I live in gratitude every day. I really don't have any complaints. I complain, but don't do anything. So Shay, where can they find you on social media?
I think the easiest place, I've kind of pulled back off of social media. Is the funny thing, Host in LA is probably the easiest place. Okay. I think they do have to search for it in Facebook. I am on Twitter under Shay Holland, but I'm not very active. I'm not going to promise I'm going to get any better either, because I'm trying to live my life right now.
She is like it's golden, because she's ready for success.
Yeah,
for more
baby.
Success. Well, you can follow us, of course, on Facebook, the Breaking Into Facebook page. This interview will be on there. It's actually in Host in LA. This interview is going to be in there, too. The link that's in there now, this is actually going to be the link for the show. So it'll be there for the rest of our lives. You can look at it and see. Hopefully you learn something from us, and at least by example, how we're kind of living our lives. And we appreciate every host that's out there. I don't look at it as, you guys are my brothers and sisters, not competition. We are there. We're all in this together to be out there and, affect change in the world through our hosting. That's what I hope. That's how I look at that. And you can follow me at James Lott Jr. Where all James Lott Jrs are sold at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms. And I will talk to you next time.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
These are things you will need. You will need faith. You will need to surrender all negative thoughts.